Hi guys, so I'm going to start with the Mystical Shaman Oracle, and then we had two cards that came out, so I'm going to read them one right after another, because they both are 11 cards. 3 plus 8 equals 11, and that's how I do things. And then if you look in there, Justice is in there, and Justice is also an 11. Anyway, so to me, this feels like, with 1111, that energy a lot of times is the bridge between the earth and the heavens. It's heaven on earth. It's, the portal between worlds type of thing. And that's kind of what's represented here. You have the council, which is kind of like the heavenly beings, the beings that are, know all things in the spiritual realm, if you believe in that kind of thing. And then you have the mystical shaman, which is, that's that entity on earth who's kind of trying to help his fellow man or her fellow man kind of bridge that gap, right? He's the one that sees, right? That's what the shaman means, is the one who sees in the dark. So being able to see beyond the veil. Anyways, the council are the luminous beings who hold the collective wisdom of humanity. They are the ones before whom you will do your life review when you cross into the world of spirit. A life review is when we place our good and our bad deeds on a divine scale, like the justice, an attempt to explain why we did not love or forgive or dare as greatly as we might have. Know that their wisdom is available to you at all times when you live in a state of yes and in an unconditional relationship with life. They remind you of your place around the sacred fire, which has been reserved for you since the beginning of time, and you will claim it when you own your inner wisdom. The council has a message for you. Listen with your inner senses. The handwriting is already on the wall, so look about you and you will discern its meaning. Do not wait for further signs. Embark on the journey to love deeply, forgive sincerely, and dare greatly. Take the leap without requiring life to assure you of success. So this right now feels like, this is like a calling. This feels like a calling to me, which is kind of interesting because since today is Thursday, I don't know, for some reason I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something that's about like, Jupiter, and then it kind of fell apart, but this is kind of a Jupiter-y reading because a lot of times that energy, like the Sagittarius energy, the Jupiter energy, is about that calling to expansion, and those deeper meanings and things. And so we're going to go to the mystical shaman. And I love this card too. So it's number 38, and it says, this is the symbol of the myth maker, the storyteller, who is neither made nor defined by the story. Instead, he observes it, evolves through it, perceives all aspects of it. In doing so, the mystical shaman represents the ability to dream a new story, a new myth into being. He dances between worlds, wearing the cloak of the world loosely around his shoulders, and sings the world into being. He reminds us to be in the world and travel through it, but not be defined by it or become too attached to this experience. The symbol of true alchemy, for all elements of life have a spiritual aspect and a material one. When we remember this, all manner of miracles and manifestations are possible. When the mystical shaman appears, you are invited to consider the ability to live without attachment. You are called to create and dream your life, to act on inspiration and divine impulse without fixating on the known story of success and achievement. Can you impartially observe the stories you tell yourself and others? What if you could become a mystery to yourself? Who would you become if you stopped telling the tales that have defined you up until now? You do not have to live in a story that has roots in the past. What if there were no need to explain you to anyone? Not even to yourself. The way to your most extraordinary life is to become a blank slate and allow the form of your dreams and desires to show up as it will. This is a sign of manifesting a life beyond your wildest dreams. And I think that's beautiful. So definitely, this is some sort of call, I feel, for somebody. And this reading has a lot of Jupiter-ness to it. It has that feeling of like Sagittarius, maybe because we're going into that, but also maybe because it's Thursday, and Thursday is a Jupiter day. And we also have the Empress over there. So yeah, there's something about this as far as that goes. And the King of Wands is kind of like, that's my Sagittarian king. And that's Sagittarius and Scorpio. Kind of like that merge in between it. That's fiery fire. Fiery of the fire water, right? So this is somebody who is a spiritual leader. Somebody who is all about expressing themselves in that way. And telling their truth. And they're passionate. And they're very expansive in that way. These are people that don't They're not quiet about it. You know what I mean? They're the king that literally is like the spiritual leader. So with the tower underneath that, that's what I kind of feel like. I feel like this is somebody who is, getting some type of like signal, or something is pushing you. There's an urging, there's a breaking down of the old, and something is being rebuilt, and it is within you. And I feel like this is some type of spark within you to be some sort of leader in some way, in some type of inspirational or spiritual way. So if this isn't you, then maybe it's somebody around you, or maybe this is something about that's happening in the collective as well. But I definitely feel like that's what this is about. This is about, merging heaven on earth, merging that between that portal of, the spiritual and the material. And this is all about, expanding that spiritual nature in our daily lives. And that's what this feels like. So definitely with that King of Wands and the Tower, this is somebody who is feeling this push, this pull, this inspiration, this kind of call. So whoever this is, you'll know who that is. And so my second column, that's always kind of like what my focus should be, what your focus should be, the collective, or whoever this is about. And we have Justice, and we have the Moon. And again, this feels like balance between truth and intuition, which is both the same thing. It's balance between the known and the unknown. Balance between the logical and the spiritual, right? The intuition, those type of feelings, those mystical feelings. This is the truth, as truth is in, right and wrong, and being able to see the even and the justifiable ways of seeing the truth, and also in that illusionary but deeply divine nature of the Moon. So somebody supposed to tap into that. So this is definitely somebody needs to focus on how you can marry these two things. How can you incorporate these two things together and kind of bring that aspect in whatever you're working on. And then in our area of our assets, something that we could use to help us in this, or what is helping us, whether this is some energy or this is some type of skill you have the Three of Pentacles. A lot of times Three of Pentacles can be all about crafting your masterpiece, or it can be foundational. It can also be about cooperation, using things around you as, ways to build this thing that you're working on. You have the assets around you to build the thing, right? You have the pieces and the parts, and you're working on them in the right way. That's what that feels like. It feels like this is something where you have all the pieces. You have all the pieces to the puzzle. You have all the bricks at the foundation, right? And you are able to put them together. And I feel like this is somebody who is really trying to kind of see this. There's somebody who is able to see this right now, where everything kind of fits into place. And it could be something that you've been working on for a while. Could be a relationship. Could be a work. It could be like your path, or just something that you've really been, working at, and something that means a lot to you. And I feel like this is something that things are finally falling into place. And with the star down there, this is something that you've got your hopes and dreams in. This is something that you're pouring yourself into. But I also feel like this is something that you have good qualities in. This is something that you will be known for, I feel like, or it's something that you do well in, because the star, the star is a star. A lot of times the star is about, needing to kind of be out of your comfort zone and kind of get it out there in the public. It's kind of like, being able to be expressive and have faith in yourself while you're doing that. I feel like whatever this is, you have the ability to do this well, and you are laying the foundation, and you are working on this in a very beautiful way with the things that you have available to you, whether that be inside and out. So the work that you're doing is creating this thing. That's your asset right now. The thing that you're working so hard at really is kind of like what you're supposed to be doing. So I think this is like a sign to somebody, if you're wondering if the thing that you're doing that you feel so passionately about, yes, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And then my last column is kind of like, the next step, or what the advice is. We have the Chariot, and we have the Empress. So right here, we just have like so many major arcana in this reading. So this is a big thing for somebody. Definitely all about that, balancing your spiritual and the mundane, but you're blending this. This is somebody who is doing this in a very inspiring way. With the Chariot and the Empress, I feel like that this is somebody who is, you're on your path and you are on a trajectory forward, but at the same time, I feel like as the Empress, you don't have to go so hard. You know what I mean? I'll kind of allow things to come to you. I feel like, again, this is another balance thing. Every freaking thing in life is, keep going on your path, but also be a little bit receptive, allow things to come at you in that way, because, the Empress doesn't want for nothing, but it's not because she hasn't done the work. It's just because of where she is in her position and her demeanor. This is somebody who is able to receive things because they are so well balanced and they are so well aligned. And I feel like you are aligned in your path. So as you give, you will get, right? And then we have the last two oracles on the end. I have the Liminal Forrest Oracle with Sacrifice. Now, I know this looks like a bad thing, right? It looks terrifying. But I feel like we need to remember that sacrifice actually comes from the word sacred. And it's about offering something without regrets. Offering something for the sake of gratitude. So, I'm not telling you to go get your dog or whatever and do that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, I feel like this card is about releasing those things that you're holding on so tightly about, that maybe you're afraid to let go of something because you're afraid that it's, if you do, well, what do I have to fall back on? If I get rid of this thing, or if I do this thing, where's my safety net? It's that whole release so that you can expand, right? You have to give something up in order for something new to come in, right? And it's always mindset. It's always mindset and energy. And I feel like this is somebody needs to release that feeling that you aren't enough, or that, that you can't do this. I feel like this is somebody that's on the edge of something really great, and they really need to understand that, yes, keep doing the work, but at the same time, release a little bit. Release that need for, confirmation, or the need for structure so hard that you don't allow things to just come at you. You don't let spirit to kind of help you along the way. So that's a message for somebody. Maybe you need to release a little bit and allow things to come to you. Allow yourself to be that Empress, right? And we have our last oracle, which is a Santa Muerte oracle. It's number 10 with Mictlantecuhtli. Okay. I think I got that right. The king of the dead and the afterlife, ruler of the deepest part of the underworld, along with his wife, and I'm not going to say her name because that was hard enough. He forms the binary and complementary opposition of disaggregation of bodies and matter. We see him devouring a body, for rupture and fading out are the starting point of any successive work of creation or regeneration. He is the alchemic solve to separate. The analysis before the synthesis, the phoenix that dies and turns to ashes before the rebirth. The advice of the dead: it is time to look at the situation from a more in-depth point of view and analyze the circumstances before putting the pieces back together. Okay, so that whole tower, exactly. So I think that's cool. That's exactly what I was thinking. So the tower is, something was torn apart. This part of you was torn apart, and you are building those pieces back together. Definitely somebody feeling the call, and maybe you felt it for a while, because this feels like something you've been working on for a while, and maybe we're working so hard that we don't see that Spirit is offering you things, that you can be the Empress and just get your thing, right? So somebody's definitely in alignment somewhere. There's some call that you're feeling. And if you've been questioning that this thing you feel so passionate about, put the pieces together, right? The pieces have all been there. They're there for you to kind of look at. Balancing that inner and outer, and the spiritual and the physical. I feel like this is definitely saying that this is something that you are bringing to earth. This is your heaven on earth, right? This is your manifestation of what you have within, and you're bringing it without. Okay, so whoever this is for, this is beautiful, and I hope that you got something out of this, and I will talk to you later.